That's the problem. You know, it's
And actually part of it really feels like it's really there's nothing definite.
Say hi.
Want to sign up for a tree for the niche?
Absolutely. What do you got open?
July, August, October, November.
Oh my god. I'll do with yours.
Here we go.
Just put Mel there. I'm kind of like
Mel? Last name so we can, when we publish.
Originally had 5 trucks, which was really cool. But we decided that
It's a raft kind of?
no, it's a 5 coming out as a clump. But it had the roots spreading out like that, so I put it over the rock.
Well, they last pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I wrapped them in tape and it's been about 20 years on the rock.
20 years on the rock.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Huh?
Tell us more about the tree.
Well, it was a seedling that presented itself as a tall, slender, elegant tree, and so I decided to go with it. Instead of trying to make a stumpy tree, I decided to let it be a tall, elegant tree, and it had the roots spreading. A lot of times elms have roots like that, but they're usually hidden in a pot. Right. So I decided it would look nice clasping a rock, and I had a rock that was kind of a dome-shaped rock that I thought lent itself well to that.
And accent point?
And the accent is a little sedum that is just coming into bloom right now. That's in a little Chinese pot that looks like a bit of a stump. And it's just very sweet. And you know, it's saying springtime with the tree opening its leaves and the small plant blooming. It's saying spring is here.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Pete.
Hey, what's up, man?
His brother-in-law took him to a cockfight, and he loved it, man.
Bro.
Oh, what's happening?
Live, man.
Oh,
We live. Say
They're
something
gonna
to
get
the
busted,
world.
man. I'm around, man. You're not supposed to be here.
Fence guy comes over.
The fence. Tell me more.
No, it's slime.
Gonzalo,
Yes.
say hi to the Bonsai community.
Hi, Bonsai community.
Hello, Bonsai.
Man of the hour.
Hello.
What do you got to say to the bonsai world right now?
Hello, guys. Come at Descanso Bonsai Club.
Nice. Nice. Pound right there. Bam! Let's see what we got going on over here. All right, Josh. What's up, Tom? Hey, Javier. Happy belated birthday, bro. All right, we're live. Say hi.
I got a cold. I don't want to.
I can't see that guy.
Hi.
Whoa, sorry. Where's the raffle tickets?
Over there.
Okay. We don't have to run and get them again?
So he didn't give it. Dry desert type stone is to use. Hey,
Say hello to the world.
good. To use more like an
Yeah, as you can see, it's a packed house today.
also worked for.
World, what can we expect to see today?
We're going to talk about refinement on juniper. So we have here a nice Kishu juniper
Nice.
that I'm going to show a little bit of refinement. And actually it's a tree of a series that we start here at the club like a year and a half ago. And we did already a couple of work on the tree. So we're going to do a little bit more refinement on the green and also a little bit more work on the dead wood to take out the live lines.
We're excited. So this will be like the third time we're seeing this tree?
Exactly.
Wonderful. First time on the live stream. All right. We got your mic already?
Yeah, it's there.
Is that like steamer lights in it? That's amazing. I saw you walking around.
Yeah. Where did you tell me about that device?
It's called a gimbal. A gimbal.
A gimbal.
Right.
Get them for like selfie there.
Interesting, because I use my camera on my airplane, but usually has a vibration.
Well, this one, look.
So it's accelerometers.
It's pretty amazing. All right, guys, we're going to be back. I'll save some... Alan, how are you?
Hello, good. How are you?
Say hi to the Bonsai community.
Hello, Bonsai
What's your
community.
message?
Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you, too. Liquid.
Grow your trees.
Grow your trees. I like that. To the trees.
So are you gonna?
Yeah, we will. I'm already on already. Cesare is about to start it up.
Chance yet to find out from
Get him shut him in the wall. Get him dug in.
You like that, right?
You know why the leaves on that are like orange?
No, I have no idea. Let's ask Cesario later how he presents his name.
Hello, Vietnam.
Holy cow, it's God.
Welcome. I'd like to call us to some kind of order. So please come up and have a seat so we can get going. Really glad to see a good turnout for our meeting this evening. And we've got a few small things to bit of business to deal with. So let's do that. First of all, calendar-wise, the big thing on the calendar is the California Bonsai Society show this weekend in Huntington, and of course the reception for the various bonsai clubs and some clubs that the Huntington provides Saturday evening, and so if you all want to be there, possibly can. It's always a lot of fun, and the food and drinks are great. So and free. So come for the show in the evening and the food and the drink, and see the other members of the bonsai community. It's always a great deal of fun. Let's see, then I guess in May will be Santa Anita's show at the Huntington, at the Arboretum. Are there any other shows that anybody else is aware of imminently? Sensory Kai?
Daiichi, May 5.
Okay, Daiichi, May 5.
When is it?
Down in Gardena. And when is Sensory Kai's show? May 20th. Okay, so May is 3 shows in that month. So that'll be a big show month. And then of course, our show in June, we're on Father's Day weekend again. We're back to Father's Day. We got prying that back out of the hands of the Garden Guild. So we should have good traffic on Father's Day, and that would be my 65th birthday. Oh my God. Anyway, after that, we've got lots of bonsai to do. I hope you're all repotting and pruning and getting things ready for our show coming up and other shows you may participate in.
Did we mention any swap meet?
flyers. I guess Jim, you can put them on the table back, one of the tables back there. It's a true swap meet. You can take and trade or buy or want or sell, whatever. It's out at the recreation. It's at the recreation center.
It's the Descanso's.
Okay, well, the information.
Descanso's Park on White Oak.
Jesse Owens Park in White Oak. Judy has flyers.
Anybody can sell. Anybody can buy. There's no fees charged.
And you can trade or whatever deal making you're able to do.
Can people keep stuff? Can people what? Keep. You can do whatever you want.
Yes.
And across the street from there, I'll have my house open with lots and lots.
And Michael always is open for business with pots and material. Okay. Any other particular business? Okay, then the niche over here, is that yours, Michael?
Yes.
Michael, why don't you tell us about
I don't think. Can you all hear me?
No.
Too bad. We have a couple of people return too. Chuck Hector.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
Well, I should.
Get that microphone checked.
Mike Polachek? Okay, so about 10 years ago, I went up to San Jose with Kate Fawcett, and we learned some techniques from Doug Phillips. One of the techniques was where you take a bunch of whips, and maple whips, and you tie them together on a frame, and you make a big tree out of 100 small whips. Sounds like something you do in a few minutes. It took a day and a half to wire it up. And I just pulled it out of the ground, and it's still not ready. That's 10 years. But we also learned how to collect olives. And curiously enough, olives are so strong that you just rip them out of the ground, and you can cut off all the branches. You can cut them with a saw so you have a flat surface where they start to turn in, and then you put them in a pot on a board, and they will issue roots and they will issue branches. And this is one of the ones that after we learned that technique, we were looking around for olives that the birds have eaten the seeds and dropped, because over at Olive View Hospital, it was the biggest orchard in the world, olive orchard. So unfortunately, there are not a lot around, but we did find a few samples, and this was one of the ones that I did find. I left it in my garage for a long time, and finally I said, hey, I better work on this. And this is the result after 10 years, and I love olives because nothing ever goes wrong with them. They get a little scale once in a while. My accent is in a Jim Barrett pot, and I think that's a viola. It's a Johnny Jump Up.
Yeah, viola.
Yeah.
No. That's Snapdragon vine.
Really?
Yeah, that's a vine.
All right, it's a Snapdragon vine. He always knows.
No.
Okay, so that's my tree, and thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I like the deep pot with the stumpy tree. Mm-hmm. It's a nice balance and supports as well. The other niche is my tree, and it's a Chinese elm. This was a seedling of 20 years age at this point. It kind of presented itself as a tall, slender tree, and I thought, go with it. If not all bonsai are thick and chunky, so I just went with it and used the tendency of the elms to put out fairly definite roots, ropey roots, to put it over a rock, and it's been around that rock for 20 years now. So it's really firmly clasping that rock, and the branches are very delicate, have developed delicate movement over the years. The accent plant is a small sedum that's coming into bloom for spring, and between the tree just putting out its new pinkish growth and the flowers, it says spring is here, and this is after all the first day of spring. So, very seasonal. Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's what I was aiming for. And then I would like to invite Ellen up to, where else do you go? Oh, there you go. Oh, well, okay, Michael, do you want to introduce our demonstrator?
Not really.
Well, would you please?
He's being a bad boy again.
Well, what else is new?
That's part of his nature. Okay, so we have the pleasure of having Mauro Stemberger, world traveling bonsai master, here tonight for the third time of working on a grafted juniper with Shinpaku. The first time we did the initial shaping, the rough shaping. The second time there was more refinement, and we took it home and potted it up, and so now he will do his magic of making an elegant, I hope, an elegant bonsai out of it, because he has great talent in shaping trees, magnificent. But don't tell him I told you that. So, Mauro is from Italy. He was basically learned bonsai in Italy. They didn't go to Japan to learn it there. He's been to Japan, and he's learned a lot through his own working with some other Italian masters and through his own study. I think one of the great things about Mauro is he was an architect, and he has the ability of seeing three-dimensional images that's a little harder for us. And when he looks at a tree, even when it's just bare, he has the ability of seeing what the final result is going to be. And better than that, he's able to achieve that. So without further ado, Mauro Stemberger.
How do you work? Let me see here. Okay. It's right.
Yeah. Put it in here. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like this.
Yeah.
And it has to stay
This goes the other way.
Yeah, it
The
does.
mouthpiece comes down. See, he's Italian.
Sorry, we don't have this technology.
Sure you do. It's
I
called,
still drive at the airport with my horse.
it's called AU. Put on that here.
Okay.
And the mouthpiece comes down.
So you think it's like that? Can you hear me? Okay, we do on my way. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So technology is not for me.
Actually, it was
So I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be back at the club. I already know all of you because we see each other so many times, and it's always a pleasure to be here. I'm running this time a very short visit to LA, unfortunately. This spring is being very busy. I came back home from India, and then I went to Germany, and from Germany I went to France, and from France back to Italy, and I took a plane and I went up to San Francisco, and now I'm staying in LA for a week. So today I was working at Hank Place to do some little California junipers, and yeah, just little ones. Yeah. And then when Michael, a few months ago, told me that we're going to do something for the club, I was very happy, and I suggest that we should do some sequence of the work we already did on this juniper. I think it's good, and most of you probably were here when we first styled this tree, and then we give a little bit of a second touching. And you can see now how the tree developed. So what we did at Michael's place was to put the tree in a bonsai pot is not a final bonsai pot, but is a good step in between the black plastic container and a nice final pot that probably we're gonna give to the tree in the next 2 or 3 years. But as I always say, as much as we work on a green, we have also to work on the roots, because we never know what is underneath the soil level. Because a tree that we have in this black bucket can have good roots, can have bad roots, can have problems that as we shape the branches, we also need to shape the root ball to get the tree in a bonsai pot one day. Many times I run around big trees or trees in very high container, and you never know how you style a tree, and maybe in the pot there is still 2 feet of trunk, or the roots are not supporting really the lifeline you really want to show on the tree. So sometimes even the repot is even more important than the shape of the tree initially. So I give you this example. I was up in San Francisco working with a guy who is a collector of Sierra juniper. He has a beautiful material. On some of them we have to go through a repot first and then think about putting together a design for the tree, because some of these Sierra juniper, they get collected almost with no roots, and then you never know which part of the trunk is going to shoot out the roots or with lifeline is going to leave, and sometimes again we go and we find out that there is still part of the trunk in the container. So for this tree we start putting on this kind of nice rectangular pot, start inclinating the tree. If you remember, when I first styled this tree, I gave a lot of inclination to bring the apex as much as I can forward, and you can easily see that we start getting rid of part of the superficial root ball, exposing this side root. There is still work to do here, but we need the roots to develop underneath before we can go and scratch. So it's a process. You see that if you look the tree from the side, the trees are still a little bit coming too much in the back. We want in the future to have the tree in this position. But doing bonsai is a process. So step by step, we reach our goal to have a tree in a certain condition. And we can't do everything at the same time, because we are working with something that is alive, and we always want to work on a tree that is at the top of his strength. A tree, I always say this, a tree is like a bodybuilder. He has to eat a lot and train a lot to keep his condition, and he can use the strength of his body because he accumulates a lot of energy. And the same is for the tree. So now that we are talking about juniper, we can see the strength of our bodybuilder from these nice shoots all around the tree. So we can already see when we look at this tree that the strength of the tree is very well redistributed all over the plant. So from the lower branches, that are always the most tricky ones for juniper, because juniper normally has a lot of apical dominance, especially in the first years of growth, and the lower branches are weak. But in this case, because we always tried to open, and what I have to say that Michael did correctly, especially for Kishu juniper. Kishu tend to be very pom-pom. So it's not like Itoigawa or, let's say, California juniper. They just go straight and tend to open sideways. But Kishu juniper does a pom-pom and then the shoot in the middle. Thank you so much. Perfect. So, yeah, I got the board so I can. So, differently from, California just grow this. Okay, from the little shoot. But Kishu, first he does the pom-pom, and then in the middle he starts shooting. So what is very important to do on Kishu is clean the first part of the pompon. So this is going to give light and air to the inner area to develop and open and fill the pads. What is the problem? If we let the tree growing and regrowing on the same position without any cleaning, there is a lot of competition and branches get weak and flopping down. This is most what happened, for example, in California juniper. We see a lot of branching hanging down while others are taking off. This happens because the competition. A tree is not interested on putting energy in a weak branch or in a branch that is not getting enough light, while it can put energy in another one that is in a better position. This is how the trees normally grow. But when we have a bonsai, we don't want this competition to happen. We want all the strength of the tree to be the same all over. So what we do is go inside and clean the different part to improve the light and the energy of the tree to redistribute all over the pads. This is very, very important. So we don't have areas that are shooting too strongly and areas that are flopping down and that are weak. Another thing, the trees are not stupid. So a tree that has wire in some branches and other are free is not going to push too much in the wired branches because it feels the constriction of the wire, but is pushing on free branches. And especially on junipers, what is the tendency of juniper is to shoot a lot on the crotches. So if we have a wired branches and the tree is shooting out from the crotch, that shoot is taking away all the energy from the wired branches. So again, cleaning and reselecting those lines is very, very important. We don't have just to have a tree nice and shaped after a workshop and then forget the tree 1 year and then go back to the tree and say, oh my God, this inner branch died. Why? Sure, there is no light and the tree is gonna let that branch go. So, what is the goal for tonight? Apart from talking a lot and give you as many information as I can, I want to show a little bit of the next step to get these branches a little bit more nice and refined. And also now I'm going to start to do a little bit more work on the deadwood, just to make a little bit of story of what we did before. This tree was a San Jose juniper, grafted probably 3 years ago with Kishu. The original foliage was partially eliminated before we got the tree, and then the first demo I did, I took away completely the original foliage to improve the strength of the grafted foliage. So basically the tree was grafted in 6-7 points that now are very nice and big branches. So you see all these branches were grafted in the original tree. What I did was to try to create a canopy, so a structure at the first step, and also removing some lines. These 2 branches were alive, but were not useful for the original styling. So I started getting rid of these branches and create gin, and because this is a juniper, connected to these cutted branches, I was able to create some shari to give a little bit of character of the trunk. The trunk is not a great trunk, it's a little bit cylindrical with no taper. Conicity on junipers as nebari are something that can go a little bit on a second plan. We tend to look more about the deadwood on juniper, and in this case I focus a lot on the design of the green. So I want the green be a little bit more highlighting than the trunk. So normally we want to see more the trunk line and the base of the tree, then the green is just a frame. For this tree that is just, let's say, is a pool, I want to have the green be the most important part of the design. Now, we go in, I always use these two easy tools. One is a potato peeler and the other one is just a double blade knife you can buy online. And we can already see some areas that are stronger than others. So even if the original trunk was all alive and now we start killing down some of the parts, you can see here, we see already that some areas dry out. So if I go in here, you see, we have the live line in the side that is growing up, probably to give energy to these branches. And then I can go and reselect the edges on the shari. So you see, I lift up. You see, this is that. So the tree already reselect some of the lines. You see, the bark is lifting up easily. So this is something that normally happens because the tree is reselecting where is the easiest way to go from the roots to the branches, creating live line. So this part that probably went mostly up on these two branches, died back, so is a good spot to open and create a nice shari. Yeah, see? So I'm reselecting, see? The bark is coming out. So we can go in and clean this part. So, you know, creating a little bit more dead wood, we can give, first of all, age on our tree, and second, give a little bit more character to the trunk. Probably in the future, a good idea could be, because now we have, yes, some layers of dead wood, some bumpy area and some more deeper areas. Could be interesting to go in with some electrical carving tools and dip a little bit more this area to give it a little bit more design to the dead wood. So,
Mauro, would you contemplate making the line less straight, like giving you motion eventually?
Yeah, something we can do is giving. Sorry, I had too much dust today carving with a big machine. So when we have a trunk that is all alive, and then on a certain point.
Mauro, we'd like to move the whiteboard a little bit forward because the shadow's showing.
Okay.
So we can move the table up a little bit. Yeah, that'll work.
So let's say that we decide to cut a branch, and from this branch we create a nice gin. Okay? So if you want to give a little bit of pathos to this part, from the gin we can start creating a shower. So normally a young tree, you know, probably this is a 15, 20 years old garden juniper, grow straight, and all the live line are going from the roots to the foliage very straight and up. So creating like a twisted shari will be very difficult and will be also very dangerous for the tree. Even if the cells of the wood that are still young are able to reconnect a little bit sideways, but you know, moving the live line so dramatically could be very dangerous for the tree. We can risk to cut a live line and then have a part of the tree died. But what we can do is move a little bit the shari line, and let's say, especially if we have some gin, you know, in different position, time by time, we can reselect the live line and connect the two parts. So, for example, you know, we can give on a straight trunk, we can connect the two gin that are in the same side, and we can get a little bit more movement of the live line. In this particular tree, and as we said, and we can see, I did already some shari at the first work, and then the tree itself reselect where you want to grow. So, for example, I have an area here that is all alive. This is probably the original shari that comes from when the tree was growing in the field and got hit by, you know, something. So, if I want to give a little bit of movement to this live line that tonight I'm going to reselect, what I can do, I can start from this gin and create a little bit of shari coming forward. So, having this line here, I can cut away, and visually I can make this straight line less powerful, because it's something that your eyes just, you know, go there, because it's very strong visually. Sometimes, most of the time, let's say, this works, and then the tree, especially as I said, because it's a young tree, is able to reselect the live line and regrow side by side, reconnecting the cells. So we're gonna get a little bit more movement in the live line. But already, as you can see, already having this dead part here and this live part here give a little bit more character to the trunk, more than have just a trunk that is all alive with a couple of shari here and there. So let's finish to clean this part. Any question?
You mentioned some branches are grafted, actually. That's
all these branches are grafted.
That's amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. The guy who did that is a Vietnamese guy. He's very specialized on grafting. So he takes little cuttings like this, and then he grafts inside the tree. He protects the graft with the bags, or sometimes you can put the tree inside of a big bag and put in a greenhouse, so the humidity is very high, because the problem of grafting these little branches is that for a certain period of time they have to survive without any moisture and sap coming from the mother tree. So if you are able to make them survive with the humidity in that time until they start connecting to the mother plant, the graft is successful. Otherwise, if they dry out, no success. But from what I saw, the guy, you know, you can graft in two ways. So the guy had this tree, and this was like a garden juniper with a lot of branches, a tree that was never styled, so just a garden tree. And the guy just decided to change the cloth of this tree, you say. So he said, I don't like the original foliage, it's flopping, it's too big, the foliage is too thick. I want to have a nicer foliage, a foliage that is well proportionate to be a bonsai, very fine, dense, with a nice growth. So he said, okay, I graft everything. And then whoever is coming after me is going to think about the style. In fact, when I styled this tree for the first time, and I get rid of some branches, of some major branches, those branches were grafted too. So I have to remove also part of his work. Some other time, we have trees that are done, okay? So all the branches, all the structure is there, but we don't like the type of foliage. So on the structure of the original tree, we graft new foliage. And then we just change the original one with the new one, having already the tree styled. I normally prefer the second type. So build the structure of the tree and then graft the tree. Because, again, when you build the structure of the tree, what you have a bigger chance to make the good decision about the front, about the live lines, the reselection of the live line. If you have the tree that is all grafted and still you have the original foliage on, it's always kind of difficult to say, okay, I get rid of this, but then this graft is not in a good position. So you can be able to choose a better position if you have already a project in your mind, not just random grafting the tree. For example, if this tree would be first styled and then grafted, probably the first branch will be not coming from this line here. Probably we could use a down line like this one with a different front, but having the graft in a certain position that is a kind of random, you have to make different decisions, okay? But again, we work with the material we have. So when I approach this tree, I was just thinking, okay, it's just a raw material. With this foliage, I do the best to take out the best bonsai. So going back a little bit to the trunk, we see already that now just cleaning one side of the tree and highlighting a little bit this characteristic of having this bump give a little bit more character to this trunk. So now, as I said, what I want to do is with my knife a little bit reselect this side of the live line and try to open here a shari to give a little bit more movement to the live line that now is just straight. Okay. Say, okay.
Does the shari come from the gin always when you're designing?
Is always on a juniper. Is always better to start from a gin, especially on a young tree. When you have an old tree that you can already feel and see which one are the live line growing more or less, then there you can also go in and select a part more than another, because the tree itself is telling you the way. But when a young tree is all alive like that, a good way is to start from a part that for sure is that, and we know that normally the lower part and a little bit the upper part from a gin is, even in a young tree, is less active. Okay? But now what we want, because we have, and I can easily see and feel that already as the tree originally did here, you see that this area grew more than the inner one here. Okay? now died because we take away what was the calling for the energy of the tree. But this creates a nice shari here. Now here I can feel with my finger that there is a bumpy part here and another one in this side, and in between is a little bit less prominent. So this is a part where I can go and eventually open another little shari. Then again, as I said, the shari work is step by step, because if, for example, now I open a shari here and I twist around trying to reconnect with this gene, probably I risk to kill some of the under lifeline of the tree. But if now I just open a little bit of a shari here and a little bit here and give the tree the time to recreate wood cell and recreate connection, and then in 6 months, 1 year, I go and regrow and recut these areas. In the meantime, the tree will be able to reconnect that area. As I said, there is a step-by-step work. So, just go in a little bit and clean this area here. We can see that even in the middle area here, the trees are still very active. The cambium of the San Jose juniper is kind of thick, and there is a lot of moisture inside because obviously it's a spring and the tree is starting his work to grow. So what we want to get is a little bit of a division of the lifeline in the lower part here. So we create a little bit of a visual connection between this shari and the other one that we just cleaned. So the goal is in the future to be able to go a little bit up and left here to give movement. And then I already did some work probably when I first worked on this tree. Try to lift it up a little bit. Can you see? So there is a little bit of a shari in the lower part of this gene and here too. So what we can do is start coming a little bit in this side and kill part of this wood. You see how easy it is now to lift up the cambium. This is a very good period to work on shari on your junipers because the cells of the wood are very active and they tend naturally to create a kind of a gap between phloema and xylema with the hardwood, because it's the part where the water is running. The water run up and then comes down as sap. Okay? So here, that is the area between the xylema and the hardwood, is the part that now we have to get rid to open a shari. So you see already from the front that the goal is that we want this lifeline and this lifeline to bump up. And in the meantime, we want to extend up this shari a little bit, and in the future this one, to get a trunk with maybe 2 or 3 lifeline running up nicely to give energy to the foliage. That is something that we see in the old California juniper, or in general in the old juniper in the wild. Year after year, and the branch is dying, the tree is reselecting only the channels useful to give energy to the green. Okay? So it's the same from here up. We can reopen also this part a little bit. I'm just doing a little bit of work in the front of the tree. There is more work to be done in the back. You see also the back is all alive. So again, starting, you see, probably starting from this upper part. This area is less active, this one too. So we can go down and reconnect, recreating another lifeline. But now is better to go to the second part of the work, that is the refinement. So my goal, if Philippe can help me with a little bit of wiring, so I'm gonna try to work this first branch with the fine wiring. In the meantime, Philippe can work this side, and I can show you a little bit of refinement. So, what is refinement? Refinement is now going from this shape, that is the shape the tree has now, a very big helmet, kind of a green mass here and a green mass here, to a more redefinition of the paths. So when we see these very old trees in the books, in the magazines, what we see? There are a lot of small spaces. How you create the small spaces? Redividing and redividing the foliage. So what we do, using the fine wiring, we have to try to divide this pad in the smaller pads. And the same we want to do here, and going up to the apex, we're going to do the same thing. Because what's the difference between a 2,000-year-old juniper and a 10-year-old juniper? That the 10-year-old juniper is just a tree free to grow with a big mass, because everything is still in competition to be the leader and to grow. A very old tree, a very established bonsai that has the strength all over, need to be redivided to create spaces and line to give the nice shape to our frame. He's sleeping. Almost. So, basically, we're going to use two size wire that I'm going to put here. Philippe, come. Ah, perfect. Okay. I want to cut the new one. I haven't done this, huh? It's your fault. So, differently from when I just rough style a tree, when I do refinement, you can start here, see? You take these guys, start from the inner ones, and go, see, thank you. I just like to play with Michael. So, when I have to put just one or two size wire, especially the small size, I like to work with a little scissor. This make me saving a lot of time, because imagine every time picking up and leaving the scissor and cut and cut and cut, you know, for my day make a big difference. I have to make the work done as fast as I can. So this scissor is very useful. There is also another little Masakuni that is kind of nice and good to hold in your hands. Sometimes when I work with bigger gauge, I use this $20 scissor that also I can hold in my hand, even if it is big. I can keep working and use this one. And another trick is when we have just a fine wire, so we are not using a big size of copper that we have kind of visually measured before, wiring the different big branches. So we want to have more or less the exact amount of wire we need. When we work with the small wire, I always cut longer pieces that are useful to hold in my hand or in my mouth, and keep running the wire, boom, boom, boom. Also, this is saving me a lot of time, because time is money. So, let me make a mess with this one. So basically, we have 20 and 18 that are the kind of two sizes that I can use. So, I'm very German when I work technically on a tree. So, especially on fine wiring, we don't want to put a little piece of wire here and then here and then here, because otherwise the work will never get done. And we are always rechecking and rechecking. Is this wired? No. Is this wired? So what I normally do, and having a tree like this that just has a nice structural wire on, is giving me the chance to do, is starting for the lower pad, start in this case from the right, and go left, and wire inside, outside, everything I find. Like a little machine. Then, normally, when I do this kind of work, while I'm finishing a pad, and the pad is wired, I also set the position of the pad and go up. Okay? When I did already, when I first style the tree, I tend to put, first of all, the big wire, and then downsize all the wire until everything is wired, and at the end, shape the position of the tree. Any question? No question tonight. What's happening? I remember Cesario asked the question last time. No question tonight, Cesario?
No, I'm fascinated watching.
Okay.
What's your fertilizer?
So, talking about junipers, something very good for junipers is the daily fertilizer. So, when you water your trees, you have a side bucket when you drop your fertilizer, and there is a pump that on a certain percentage suck part of the fertilizer and mix with your water. So on a daily basis, every of your tree get a little bit of fertilizer. And what we see that Michael and Hank are doing, the trees are very strong. We have also to say something. There is a moment of the life of your tree that they have to grow a lot, another moment that you have to control. So, according to this, probably the amount of fertilizer that you give to your trees and sometimes the kind of fertilizer has to be different. So, the NPK of the fertilizer you use has to have different numbers, because on a mature tree we are not looking more about the extension or building the structure, so means building size, but we are looking about giving the right amount to all the nice foliage. So this is something you have always to think. On my collection, going back to your question, I have a lot of very mature trees, so I tend to have a very balanced fertilizer. So it's normally 5-5-4 or 6-4-4, depend of the period of the year. So in spring the tree is shooting, so we have to support a certain growth, and then when the tree is maturing the foliage, we have maturing the wood, we have to give another type of fertilizer. So I feel very comfortable using the normal Japanese Anagokoro and Biogold, and I also mix them, let's say, once a week I spray all my tree with Super Tribe. So I give a little bit of extra feeding through the foliage of the tree. We know that trees like juniper especially, they tend to absorb humidity and some nutrients through the foliage, and it's very good. Especially, I'm not a big fan of chemical fertilization or liquid fertilization in the soil because I don't have the control of that. I live in a place that can be very rainy in part of the year, especially spring. So if I fertilize liquid in spring, let's say, I really don't understand and I don't know how much of that fertilizer goes to the tree and how much gets just washed out by the rain or by, you know, the watering. I don't use the daily fertilization in my place because we have different, and especially in this period, we have different temperature ranges, and also in summer the weather can be very tricky. So I need always to check my fertilization. So I prefer to use the organic one that I can, you know, see when the fertilizer expire, and I have a better sense of how much my trees are eating. So, but again, what is important and the base is you have to fertilize your tree. I remember, and I always tell the story, the first year I came in LA, people were coming at my workshop, and I was really not happy to work on California juniper because every time I was touching the foliage just fell. Oh my God, the branches are all in the ground. Because when the tree gets not enough fertilization and water, it tends to select his line and be very weak. So when you start wiring the tree, most of the foliage fell. And it was really a nightmare for me. Now that with the work I do for Michael and Hank, the trees are very strong and they shoot a lot. The foliage is super dense and super healthy because the foliage has what it needs. So it was kind of a wrong myth that the California juniper, because it's used to grow in the desert where it's just dirt and no water and nothing to eat, has to be at the same condition in a bonsai pot. But you know, differently is a tree that loves to be fertilized, right, Hank?
Absolutely.
What can you say for your experience?
Experience on them is I actually do the Miracle Grow, and I do feed them daily, and the amount that I feed them in 1 month is equal to what they would get one feeding. So they eat daily the same amount as if they were eating once a month. And they are very healthy. They shoot up amazing.
And they get compact. This is another thing that is important to say. I mean, after the first, you can say, structural work, and giving a daily maintenance where you control the strength on the strong area, and you help the weaker area to get a better light, they tend to get compact very easily, right?
Absolutely. In many respects, they sort of look like tissue after 5 years.
Yeah.
I'd like to call for us to take a break and come up and see Mauro and Fleet wiring it close range to get a better idea of what they're doing.
Coming up close.
Mentioned we have a couple of people who haven't been around about money. Okay, I'm sorry. And her husband DJ. So,
I I hate this.
It's so dense. I mean,
It's good.
I know.
Dance is good.
And there's a lot of stuff already wired.
Very good. So wire the one that are not wired.
So you get almost each branch, right?
Absolutely everything.
Do you speak German?
Sorry?
Do you speak German?
No. No. My surname. Yeah, I was in Germany because I have a group close to Frankfurt. I go like 3 times a year, and see, there are. I mean, Europe is pretty active all over. So don't get stressed. Why?
How long do you keep the wire on?
Until it starts, biting in, and I don't remove the wire all together. There are areas that grows faster than other, so I will remove the wire first in that areas, and then time by time I remove all around. We have also to say that this tree is wired on the main structure for the last, let's say, almost 2 years. And because the tree was well maintained and no areas were allowed to start shooting too strongly, the wire is still there with no almost cutting in, because when the structure is there and we don't allow the tree to take off, the energy is always controlled, you know? If something is shooting and create a big branch, obviously this branch is asking energy and is taking it up. But now we want to keep the nice shape, so we keep the tree control.
Right. That's right.
Philippe wire.
Yeah, shut up, just wire.
Come on, Philippe, you can do it.
This is his first demo. He's a rookie. He's a demo rookie.
Demo rookie.
Volunteer.
Are you wiring every one? I'm not a wiring rookie.
Absolutely.
This is what you call your potato peeler?
He's a Rudy Bar.
Well, you use preventatives on your soil.
What do you mean?
Preventatives to keep like Bayer 3-in-1 or
I use a lot of fungicide.
fungicide.
Yeah. For that I go with chemical, 100%. We have a lot of problem with fungi all over the world, actually.
You have one that you recommend?
It is not about one. There are different active principles that you can use according to the type of disease or the type of protection you wanna do on your trees. So basically, I tend to protect my tree before getting the problems.
Yep.
So I normally spray maybe 4-5 times before the growing season starts. So now I have students at home that are doing the prevention of my trees, and so I let them the product and I let them the schedule. So every week there is a different type of product that they have to give to the trees, and this is kind of protecting everything from whatever problem that can. You can have a very wet and rainy spring, and the soil always wet fit on the trees can make the tree a little bit weak, and it can get attacked by some kind of fungi. But obviously, if the tree is protected with some systemic fungicide, that help a lot.
Yeah.
So as you are noticing, this is pretty dense foliage. So if I just wrap around, close everything itself. But when I wire the tissue or most of the juniper, I move the wire side by side while I'm wiring. And you see the wire by itself goes inside without crashing any branch. Yeah. Philippe, why?
It's tricky. It's tricky wire.
I don't care. I don't bring you collecting if you don't worry.
Now, if you keep cleaning up,
He keeps turning this branch away from me. It's been zeroed
doesn't
to
the
a
tree
different
just
spot.
get long and leggy?
You reach a point where you have the definition and the maturity, so you start pushing the tree in. So you clean, but in the meantime, you will see after when I'm gonna refine this one, you'll see that I'm gonna pinch. No, pinch is not the right term. I'm gonna prune the strong edges of the tree and clean the underneath to keep the strength there.
So you clean it out, but you want new ones to grow.
Yeah, I want always, let's say, I want always the strength to go from a place to another. So I prune, let's say, I prune here because I want the tree to move the strength here. And then I prune here and move the strength here. So it gets dense and compact, and in the meantime, I get a lot of nice new foliage. That's always the trick.
Now, some styles have large pads, like a main part of the tree will be one whole pad. You're avoiding that sort of style, right? Is that? I looked at some of your trees today on the internet.
See?
They look very, very dense without lots of little pads all over.
Okay, no, but normally. My way of working is this. When I style a tree for the first time, I divide the tree in main green masses. And time by time, while the tree is maturing, I divide the tree in many more green masses. So, this is my book, just came out. It's about bonsai work.
Is it for sale?
Oh, yes.
What about t-shirts?
No, the t-shirt I don't have. So most of the work is about, some California juniper, some Rockies, but most of the trees are...
Some have...
Yeah.
I don't see lots of little pads.
Okay, let's go here where I have my more mature trees. So,
I see.
Juniper, Sabina, lot of spaces.
I see.
White pine, lot of spaces. Mugo pine, lot of spaces. This is a large, so it's a little bit different. So you see...
No, like the apex on this one was one big...
Yeah, this is bigger,
That's
sure.
a style.
Yeah, it's also because the period of the year. When the taxus, this is a taxus, is shooting out, so the small spaces that actually there are here,
you just don't see them.
You don't see them because the tree is pushing out the new growth, But normally, you see, with the refinement on the other taxus, or let's say, also here on the buxus, or another taxus, you see, tend to have more spacing. So this is the symptom of the maturity.
This is the new Bible.
Yeah, bye.
It would take me 2 days to do what you've done already.
Practice.
We don't have that kind of
Wait, hold on. Let me get that.
We only work on
He's wiring.
He knows the way.
He knows the way.
No wire, collecting.
You're not gonna want to collect after you see what's happening over here.
What this one?
You wire out the whole main little branch, and then you do the side ones. Might come back and do the side ones.
No, I normally, you see, started here, inside, outside.
Yeah, but I mean on this, you go out to the end and then.
Yeah, I put a main wire on the other two, and then I do the two here, and then all of them get wired.
Doing all two.
Yeah, always.
How
Yeah.
are you gonna do that job? Me? Just lucky because I'm working with Hank. So he's just.
So I met him on a workshop in New Haven, Connecticut. So.
You're all friends.
Yeah, he did a workshop with me, and after. No, after I don't know, a couple of years, I was back over there, and his mom came over and said, Felipe is in Los Angeles, and she gave him by phone, and I said, you are in LA, how you doing, blah 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 blah, and he was kind of out of the bonsai scene here, and I said, no, there is the bonsai club, there is this, there is that, so I told him, next time I'm gonna be in LA, you come over to my agent house, and so you met them, and you know, and so he came over, and now he became his bitch. He's the bonsai bitch of Michael and Hank. Sorry.
Now, do you worry about the bark on the scion matching the bark on the host tree?
Really not, on juniper especially, because on the juniper you end up getting this nice live line, and you clean them and they become nice and red, so you don't actually see the bark. It's something that eventually you can look on maples, or you know that
Very easy. Because I do a lot of the small ones, especially when you're training them. Because if you don't train them when they're young, then you're going to end up in a good space like this. If you have a good trunk with nice movement, but no movement on here, then it's going to come out as natural. See, like this one here, you can do better than that, all straight, and no movement here. Do that, put a little bit of wiring, and make sure the wire would go all the way here, so that way when you crank it, then it moves. But nice street, nice movement. I mean, you know what you want to do, but be creative in such a way that, yeah.
I'm not sure yet. Some of them are, they're all too thin.
Are these Seiju?
No,
Catlin now.
Yeah,
Oh,
Catlin
wait, the cat.
They're nice because see how small they are?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And once you get the right size, you make the padding, and when they all grow, then it becomes one padding, just like the right like this.
Would you do that in the forest? Is that going to be a forest planting?
But when you do a forest, do in such a way that there's one slanting.
Yeah.
Actually, a good way of doing it is a rock plant. And then put it in crevices. One go like this, and then one is this way. And when you look at it in a big picture, all of them jump together into one big one.
But they're all,
Yeah. It's also nice if you get one of those, some kind of a rock, we can do it. Nice.
It's good.
I also heard that when you're making a forest planting, which I
Here's the winner right here, guys.
That's what I should have mentioned.
That's the winner.
I will mention
that one's the winner. This will be for the special pot right here. I'm setting an intention right now, Josh. Setting an
like the
intention.
secret?
This is the secret to winning.
Are you recording this?
My special.
No, not at all.
Mi esposa es de Colombia. ¿Tú eres de Colombia? ¿De dónde?
De Bucaramanga.
¿Dónde está?
En el oriente, como a unas 14 horas de Venezuela.
Ah, ok. Mi esposa es ahí de la frontera.
Nosotros quedamos cerca, como a 5 horas de Cuba.
Ah, ok. Su familia todavía vive ahí. Vamos este año porque no habíamos casado. Yo la conocí en Venezuela, realmente. No, yo la conocí en Brasil.
Well, 60 centimeters. It goes metric. It's in metric, not in inches.
¿De qué parte de Brasil?
And these are for sale. Yeah, these are all his trees. Here's the progression of the
Sorry, no, just a glass of water.
No, I meant you've seen the sequoia, right? It's pretty good. And some neighbors of mine also planted one, young ones, but they have no character yet.
Sure.
They're so symmetrical, you know. It's really amazing that it takes age to develop character, even for a tree.